everybody. I'm so happy to see you all here again. And thank you very much for attending. Ash Rock is back with us again today. And she's from Ashley. And she's from Ashley's House of Wellness. And we're going to be talking today about frequencies. So I'm just going to bring Ash back into the big... No, that's not it. Yes, that's it. Okay, Ash, tell us what you got, baby.
Well, so I thought, what better subject to talk about than frequency, right? It is the language of the universe. So it applies to so many things when it comes to, it applies to disease. It applies to healing. It applies to herbs. It applies to creation. I mean, it is applicable to everything. So there's so many directions that you can go down when you're talking about frequency. So which direction would you like to go?
I'm easy. You go where you want to go.
Okay, so we can talk about frequency in the sense of medicine. We can begin with that. So for those of you that might not be familiar with like Rife therapy and things of that nature, this is what I mean whenever I'm talking about like frequency medicine. So basically, Royal Raymond Rife, among others, you have people like Hulda Clark and a few other brilliant beings that have worked in this space, discovered that things such as bacteria and viruses and unhealthy cells, all of these things resonate at a frequency within the body, right? All things do. All atoms, molecules, everything vibrates at a certain frequency.
Even so-called inanimate, objects have a frequency.
Right, everything. Yeah, right. And it's happening right before our very eyes. Some things we don't see, but it's happening. I mean, we are frequency. We're vibrating. Our organs have particular frequencies. The planets, every individual planet has a frequency. So everything is vibrating its own musical note, if you will. So, but anyway, so the basis of that particular, medicine is that you can take a frequency and you can apply it to a particular cell or virus or bacteria, and you implement that frequency into that structure, so much so that eventually the outside wall, say it's a cell, the outside wall of the cell is going to eventually shatter. And that's called apoptosis, like when a cell dies, essentially. Yeah. So that's the basic
frequency that you put into these disease medicine cells.
And just to like paint a visual picture.
Sorry, Ash, didn't mean to talk over you. The frequency that you actually put into
no, that's okay.
Is that the same frequency as a disease cell, or is it a different frequency? And why would it be different? Or why would it be the same?
So generally it is the same frequency. So it is the same frequency a lot of time as the cell or the structure that you're using to implement into that in order to shatter it, right? It's almost like you're pounding it with its own frequency, so much so that it can no longer hold it and it shatters.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does. It's sort of like homeopathy, where they take snake venom or maybe, like stinging nettles, and then they break it down and break it down, break it down. So there's very minimal there, and it's just a frequency. And that can help with things similar to snake bite or stinging nettles or whatever. So if you've got a rash all over you, you might take stinging nettle homeopathy remedy for, the rash, Yeah.
So, and with homeopathy, the basis of homeopathy is like cures like. So you're using it and its frequency in order to the resonance of that in order to bring it out of the body, right?
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. It's a
really interesting concept. Homeopathy is a really, it really is. I love homeopathy. It's really great to use when you are trying to heal things within the body, for sure.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And the same thing
And
applies with herbs.
with what? Sorry.
The same thing applies with herbs. You know, herbs, they hold a frequency as well, and that's why you're using them within the body.
Yeah. Well, years ago, I did a flower essence course. I did the lady who was teaching the course. She introduced us to Bach flower essences, the Californian flower essences, and the Australian bush flower essences. And it's just amazing that you can put a flower out in the sun or the moon, whatever is applicable, in some water, and you the frequencies from the flower permeate the water, and the water is a memory holder, so it holds that memory, and then you put some preservative in it and you take it. So
yes,
flower, you know, and like I heard that the Lemurians, which is an ancient civilization, when they wanted to grow spiritually, they would go for a walk in the fields. They would find a flower that resonates with them, and they would go and sit by it to soak in the frequencies of that flower or that tree or that, you know, the bush or whatever. So it's amazing. And it's so fantastic that these things are coming back now. And to think that even before they had Hulda Clark machines, Rife machines, they knew that there was frequency in them. Amazing, isn't it?
right.
That they were actually probably more advanced
beautiful
than what we are now.
And some of that stuff was so innate, like within them, like you said, they would feel it, they would resonate with a particular flower or herb or whatever it was, and knew like innately that they needed to connect with that, because ultimately that knowledge is already stored within our beautiful mechanisms, you know, what we are. So yeah, it's very interesting stuff for sure. Excuse me.
Yeah. And so a part of your training, was it about frequencies, or did you have to reach outside and do a little bit of extra research?
Well, of course, I did some extra research, but really with that, it was just a matter of kind of diving in and getting after it, acquiring a machine and just kind of just getting after it, really. Of course, reading, you need to read some things and know what you're doing, what you're using, and how it's being implemented into the body and how it's safe for you. Sometimes that particular frequency medicine, as far as like the Rife machine and putting those frequencies into the body, may not always be beneficial for certain individuals. So, but that's where you turn to the other things, you know what I mean? Like the Bach flowers and energy healing and stuff like that in order to implement frequency. So there's always a way to implement those types of therapies. You just have to find which one is suitable for the individual. And sometimes all of them are suitable for an individual. So I think they all kind of hold their own aspect for an individual. Like, the Bach flowers and whatnot, that's so beautiful for emotional healing and trauma healing within the body, because it has a way to really to vibrate and push that stuff out of the body where it might be stuck. So
yeah, fantastic. And I also I did a shamanic course, and the reason why I got into that was because my husband and I went to a natural therapy fair, or I don't think it was just for natural therapies. I think it was just a whole spiritual community sort of coming together. And there was one lady on either side of me, and they had one of the Indian drums. I mean, mine's not an Indian drum. Oh, you can probably see on my left-hand side there, there's a table there, and that's my old Indian drum. But it's got a crack in it now, so I don't like to use it because it was real skin. But they did the heartbeat, and they walked around my chair that was in the middle of the room, and I just wanted to cry. I was releasing and releasing. It was like a mother's heartbeat, and it sort of went like this. And I hope I can do it properly, but I've got my drum here, and it was sort of like this. So, and there was 2 of them, and they were like, had it up close to my head, and I could hear them going around, and just the frequencies just released, like past lives, everything, it was, I just saw myself as an Indian, a Native American Indian, and knew that we were dancing and everything. And yeah, it was just amazing. Who would think that a 2-minute healing with 2 drums with a heartbeat would release so much? And obviously it was a violent life for me that time. So, and I needed to release some of the trauma around that life. And they also reckon that if you play the heartbeat in an aged person's home around dinner time, they don't get the wanders. They actually, because a lot of them go missing around that time for some reason, around dinner time, but they stay calm and they felt, loved, because they were playing that heartbeat over the loudspeakers.
Right.
Yeah. So
it's just a beautiful innate sound. I love the drum. I think the drum is fantastic, especially for meditation. I think that it allows you to really get in there a lot quicker. I have found, because sometimes when you sit down and you try to quiet the mind, it can take a little while to do that. But the drum really does promote that quiet and that still so much faster to be able to access that quiet in the brain that you need.
Yes.
But also, I want to talk about the frequency of emotions, because I think that that's really important when it comes to being able to heal also. And I think that there's a lot of lack of information for, the general public about how the emotions play into being able to heal. So if you are resonating in a low frequency emotion, that your entire body is resonating in that frequency. And that means every cell of your body is resonating in that frequency. So I would encourage everybody who's not familiar with that to go and look up like an emotional frequency chart to see and kind of map out like where you are in the day-to-day, and then listen to how that emotion might be playing out in your body and where you're feeling it at. I think there's a disconnect with a lot of people with that too, in those terms.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and what was I going to say? So the healing is not only on a emotional level, it's on a physical level too. So, and that's why we can hit like cancer cells with frequency, and it, like you said, permeates them and just makes them disappear. So what are some of the diseases that you've come across that you have helped with?
Correct. And just a lot of chronic infections, a lot of Epstein-Barr virus, toxoplasmosis, candida, Klebsiella pneumoniae, things that cause a lot of chronic infections within the gut that people are really unaware of. That's what I've come across mostly. So this type of equipment allows you to really get in there and get after it. And the other beautiful thing about it too is that it leaves other things undisturbed, right? So versus like antibiotics, if you go and take all these rounds of antibiotics, you're wiping out the good guys and the bad guys. Well, we need these good guys to keep populating while we're going through the healing process. So they stay there and they're doing their job. And so this is why this is so great, because it really just targets these specific things, and that's it. Another thing that I would say that this type of treatment is so great for is things like Lyme disease, chronic infections that really get deep down into the tissues, because this type of machinery has the ability to get into the body like that. Whereas rounds and rounds of antibiotics, I mean, you can just really spin your wheels doing something like that. And these things are kind of tricky, and they're smart because they can go and hibernate somewhere in the body that those antibiotics and stuff like that are not going to get to. And when they hibernate in the body like that, they're actually getting stronger. So when you stop taking antibiotics and they come back out, they're almost like they've recharged. So they're going to wreak even more havoc in the body.
Yeah, wow. So where are the places that they hide in, Ash? Do they hide in the liver?
Oh, well, they can hide. I'm sorry?
Can they hide in the liver?
Yes, in the liver. Yeah, they can definitely, so I think the misconception about, certain like parasites, and when I speak about parasites, I'm not just talking about worms, we're talking about protozoa, amoebas, there's a plethora of invaders of the body, but yes, they can definitely migrate and hide in different places of the body. And there are some parasites and worm parasites that will, when they do migrate to a certain organ, they'll take on the frequency of that organ. And so they're really tricky like that. So that makes them a lot more difficult to get to, especially if you're just using, pharmaceutical meds or something like that to try to get rid of them. So yeah, it's very tricky business when it comes to these things that can get into the body, especially when they start going to places like the brain, because some of them will do that. They will migrate up the spinal cord and make their home in your brain, which sounds really weird and creepy, but it happens. So
I've actually heard of that. A girl that I grew up with when I was a kid, her first husband, they thought that he may have had a brain tumor. This would have been like probably 30 years ago now, I suppose. They opened up his brain and he was full of worms. Full of worms.
Yes. So yeah. And there's a lot of studies out there now that people with MS, I mean, they've done autopsy after autopsy of MS, patients, and 95, 98% of them, they all have parasites that have penetrated the spinal cord and gone to the brain. So, it's not a third world country problem. It's an everywhere problem. And I think that even like in the States, it's a bigger problem because people have said that it wasn't a problem. So now there's so many people walking around with these chronic infections, but they're just on pharmaceutical meds to turn off symptoms when they really need to get to the root cause and get these body snatchers out.
Yeah. And these things can
restore their health and restore the frequency of their body.
Yeah. And these things can cause cancer, can't they? They can be cancer causing, some of these parasites.
Yes, I 100% believe that for sure. Fungus, that's a parasite. So, anything that comes into the body that doesn't belong to the body, immediately, the body has a natural response and it wants to either push it out of the body or encapsulate it and put something around it so that it can stop harming the body. Well, that's what, the cells will gather to do that. So a lot of times when people are doing like PET scans and stuff like that, and they see this white, blob on something like that, well, that's exactly what it can be, is a parasite that has been encapsulated in there, as opposed to, a tumor or whatever. I mean, if you look up the real definition of a lesion, that's what it is. So that's why some people have so much relief and luck when they begin like a parasite cleanse, when they find out that they have cancer. Yep. Or I'm sorry, the C word.
Yeah. Well, my naturopath calls the C word, what does he call it? Inflammation. And when I was going to him and he diagnosed, like cancer all throughout, because he had the Rife machine with the detector on it, like that can detect different frequencies, and he picked up cancer, the C word. So he can't use the C word because the government won't let him. So he had to, he put down on my report, there's inflammation, and there was inflammation all throughout me. And he put me on a detox, parasite cleanse, and the Hulda Clark machine, because I actually bought a little version of it. And I went from being inflammation all throughout me, the C, to none in 3 weeks. In 3 weeks.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yep. Now,
it's, there's.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. What I was going to say was that I'd had it before. I know that, but I didn't go to any doctor, and I talked to the lump that I had in one of my breasts. And I asked it, I'm not sure whether I've said this to you before, but anyway, I had to talk to it, and I asked it, why was it there? What did it want to show me? And it was sending a loving frequency to it. And I stopped it from growing exponentially to stopping it from growing. It didn't disappear altogether until I went on the detox and the parasite cleanse and the frequency with the naturopath. But emotions are a frequency. And if we are low in our emotional vibration, that's when things get us. So, and
Correct.
there's no doctors out there. Yeah, there's no doctors out there that really know this or can get into it, or they'll have their license removed. So it's so important to take care of your emotional health and to let things go and to keep checking in with yourself, isn't it? Because the emotions are a frequency too, and it starts off in it. Any disease starts off in our emotional body, and then it filters down into the physical body. So we can have, like, say we're holding anger, and we've got a lot of anger, so that's held in our red chakra, our base chakra, root chakra, and so it can start off there. And it can get blocked instead of it being a free-flowing wheel, a spiritual wheel of energy that sends out good energy throughout the rest of the body and joins up with the rest of the chakras. It gets blocked. So, and that's when diseases set in. So what do you think of that? Do you agree with that? Yeah.
Oh, I agree with that 100%. Absolutely. That's why I say, like, when you're even on a daily basis, when you're, just cleaning the house or whatever, and you're thinking about something, and all of a sudden, like, your toe hurts or whatever, and you feel something hurt in your body, well, go back to what were you just thinking? How did that implement a physical response in your body? Because yes, everything does begin with an emotion. It begins with a thought. And I love that you brought up that you talked to that lump, right? Because your voice carries a frequency. Your love was coming through in that frequency, and that's what you were doing. You were changing the composition of that by the frequency of your voice. And the frequency of your heart going towards that area. So yes, it is important that people understand that you have the ability to talk to your body like that, and change the frequency of the cells in your body, and implement change and healing in your body in that way. It's your authority, and it's your right to do that. But we're such busy individuals,
Yep.
But I mean, we've strayed so far from that mentality. So
I've lost you, Ash. I don't know whether it's your connection or mine, but your connection's been a little bit dodgy. Yeah, you're back now, but your connection's been a bit dodgy and you're a little bit fuzzy. I'm not sure how it's going to come out when we. So, I think I've lost you again. Yeah, really lost you this time.
Oh.
We can probably hear you. You just crack up just every now and again, but the picture hasn't been too good all throughout. So, yeah, it's okay. If we can keep talking and keep going, it'll probably right itself. We'll keep going. Are you there? Maybe you can log out and come back in again if you want to. Are you there? Can you hear me at all? I'm just going to ask my moderator. Oh, yep, I can hear you now. Are we back? Yes. Can you hear me? Moderator, can you hear me?
Okay, good. Yep. That's all right.
Yep. It's good. I know. Yeah, it's a bit of a
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, great. Fantastic. Wonderful. So, where were we? Where were we, Ash? Do you know? No, you can't hear
me. We were just talking about how speaking to the body changes the frequency of the cells and how the body reacts, whether it's in a state of disease or whatever. Just so it comes back to really like loving yourself, right? I think a lot of us have been in a place where maybe that's been difficult, but when we are loving ourselves, because this is the highest and mighty frequency, right? Yes. This is how exactly. God sees us, with pure love. And when we are implementing that into our bodies are going to manifest that.
Yeah. I love the saying that God
and that's love. A lot easier said than done sometimes. So
yeah. I love the saying that God isn't love. Love is
I lost
God.
you.
Uh-oh. I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, great.
Yes, there we go.
Did you hear what I said about?
I think whenever you stop and you think about how the cell, just even the cell of the body was created, the cells that make up the body, this was created by God, and it was created in pure love. And it's such a magical thing. And that is what you are compiled of, every single one of those. Yeah. So when you stop and you observe yourself in that fashion, it makes it a lot easier to really love yourself and love on yourself. At least that's been, the recognition in my journey.
Yeah, absolutely
for
true.
myself.
And when you think about it, though,
because I think self-love is a really,
if God made ourselves,
tough journey, right? But it is one of the most beneficial things when it comes to healing.
Absolutely. And if our cells are directly from God, then they're vibrating at His frequency.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
If our cells were made by God, which they are, right? Everything on this earth is made from God. That's why they get out of whack. When our frequency lowers their frequency, they don't like it because they're used to the high frequency, their blueprint frequency. So we've got to make sure that, especially when we're diagnosed with these diseases and the doctor says, oh my God, you've got this, and you've got to go and have this done and that done like immediately. And, you're sitting there thinking, well, maybe I'd like to get a second opinion. No, there's no time for that. You have to be in surgery tomorrow morning. And, this is serious. You are that doctor is freaking that person out. So that lowers their frequency even more. And it's terrifying when people get diagnoses. Instead of I'm not sure, but I think naturopaths actually have to do a course on how to give the news to a person, you know, in a way that doesn't make them even more fearful. Because whenever I've been diagnosed by a naturopath, they do it so beautifully. You know, you go to a doctor, you know, you've got this and this is very serious and you could die from this and you've got to have this treatment tomorrow. And even though you're not sure about it, you go with what they say because they've scared you so much. They've put that fear frequency into you, which is bad enough anyway for all the advertisements that you hear and see. So, and then you hear horror stories from other people for the, you know, the treatment. So frequency is, well, it's probably the basis of life, really, isn't it? If there's not a frequency that's
it
conducive
is the basis
to
of
life,
life. It is the language of the universe.
Yeah. Well, exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah. I mean, even through.
And I like what you just said. I like what you just said and what you just mentioned about the way a naturopath speaks to their client or their patient, whatever, and how a doctor will speak. I actually had a client this past week or 2 weeks ago, and she gave me a call and said that her doctor had given her a diagnosis and told her that that was it for her. Like she would never get better. And I was so appalled by that. And I mean, it just blew me away. It made me so sad and so mad at the same time that a human being would speak to another human being like that and put so much doom and gloom on somebody and making them think that they did not have the ability to heal their self and to heal their body. And that was the end of the road for them. It just is so despicable to me. So luckily she came and saw me after that, and we discussed, you know, that was not the case for her. And any time that does happen, I encourage anybody and everybody to never accept that type of never accept a diagnosis, for one, because once you take that into your field, there you go. You've claimed it, you've owned it, and so therefore you're now making that a part of you that doesn't need to be part of you. You've taken that frequency and brought it into your field.
Yeah.
So don't do that. Don't ever do that.
Yeah, exactly right. We've got some comments here from Teresa Cameron. She says, I can probably actually put them up. I've never done this before. Excuse me, Teresa, if I muck this up. But
no
Teresa
problem.
Cameron, can you see that? Teresa says, wow, how can I link up
with you both?
Well, you can. I'll put the details. Teresa, I think you're a friend of mine on Facebook, so I can send the details to you later. I'll write myself a little note. And then what's she written there? Cuts out the Australian ladies' details. Oh, divalee.co is my business name. So, and that's my website address. And then Ash's is also there too. And then she just says vibrations.
You can find me on Facebook as Ash Rock.
Yeah. Yep. Perfect. Yeah. But Teresa, I can answer any questions of yours now that I've got. I didn't realize we'd have any people taking part, and that's beautiful, you know, interactive. So Teresa, if you want to ask any questions of Rock, or if anybody out there wants to ask questions of Ash, then please do. So we'll keep going, and then if there's any questions, I'll get you to answer them, Ash. So
sure.
Yeah,
well, I will do my best.
Yeah. I know that you'll be able to answer them. You're pretty darn good, aren't you? Yeah, she says.
Well, I try to be. You know, this is definitely my passion. I love to help people heal their bodies. I've had to go down this road, and like I said, when you have doctors like that out in the world that are just not really doing the right thing and touching on the right things to help people heal, you know, it's my passion. It's what really feeds my soul and my heart, is to be able to do that and to put that into the world, because that's the frequency and the vibration that I'm trying to put into the world, right? Because we're trying to make that shift. We're trying to shift all of these things. And so some of us have to be a lamp for that. What treats diabetes? Well, diet is a really big thing. There are some mineral deficiencies like chromium that can be at play with diabetes. I would also encourage you to, whenever you do eat, to eat your proteins, your healthy fats, and your fibers, and specifically in that order, because that is going to change how your body digests and uptakes any type of glucose that you are eating. So those would be my biggest tips. As a woman, we need to be taking in magnesium. Magnesium is really beneficial for somebody with diabetes as well. I encourage all women at least 350 milligrams a day. That's a very important mineral. So those would be some of the things that I start with. But you could always contact me and we can do a one-on-one consultation too at any time, Teresa.
Do you do Skype consultations, or Skype, or any other way? Like,
I will.
Yeah. Okay, there you go,
Absolutely.
Teresa.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
she's asking here also about chromium.
Yes, so chromium is a mineral that a lot of us can be deficient in, and the chromium is very specific in helping the cell do the insulin and glucose transfer. So that's why a lot of diabetics are depleted in chromium. Wow. You can take about 200 micrograms before a meal, and that will help with that process. So.
What foods would contain chromium then too? Would there be foods or herbs or anything that contain chromium?
You know, I don't know specifically. I would have to do a little research on that, on specific foods. I know, like, your liver, organ meats are going to have a higher content of chromium. So I don't know if that disturbs any vegans out there, but I believe in whole foods. I believe in, we used to eat nose to tail, and so we didn't have a lot of the issues that we have now with our genetics and whatnot, because we used to eat more nutrient dense foods as a hunter-gatherer type of diet. I definitely would recommend staying away from grains.
Yeah.
All the grains.
Yep. Okay, great.
Especially with diabetes.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Teresa. So, wow. I don't know where to go from here. Where would you like to go from here, Ash?
I don't know. Well, I mean, we're talking about frequency. How about this? Let's talk. Go ahead.
I was going to say, what about
I'll
crystals?
let you go.
Okay. Well, I will just, I'll grab a crystal.
Yes, the frequency of crystals.
I've got plenty. So crystals are healing as well. And if anybody wants to utilize crystals, you don't have to carry a big one around like these. These are my crystal skulls. So this one's Henri, and he, I actually hear him telepathically a lot. He talks a lot. And this one is Nefertum. He's in Egypt. He is the son of, oh dear, I've forgotten her name. The lion-headed goddess. It'll come back to me. But yeah, so, and they're all for different things, but you can also program them with whatever your problem. So what I do is, because I've got different machines here that can emit different frequencies and healing frequencies, I put the headphones on my crystal skulls that absorbs because their memory, crystals are used in computers and everything, so they have memory, and they can be programmed. They have to be done right. They have to be kept clean also. They like to be loved. It's no good of just getting a crystal and leaving it on the, like a cupboard, the cabinet or something, and you don't use it. But if you really want a crystal that you can have all the time, you can even like buy little pendants and stick on, have it on your person all the time, or put one, buy a small tumbler and keep in your pocket. But they're amazing. I mean, crystals are anything from wealth to restoring arguments with somebody, to helping you with your diseases, emotional, physical protection. Absolutely. Yeah. Because they're a frequency. Yeah. And like I said before, everything is frequency.
Absolutely. So, yeah.
I've got another one.
And so speaking on that. Yes, absolutely. That'll put you on a really good path. There's some other herbs you can look into, like gymnema is a good one too, for lowering blood sugar. Now, I wouldn't go out and start taking all of these things at one time, because you definitely want to see how your body is going to do, because you don't want to do the opposite effect and drop your blood sugar so low that you start to have issues. Really and truly, what I would ask somebody to do before they start taking any type of supplements is you need to change the way you eat. That's the first thing. Because from there, you need to see how much you really need stuff like that. It might be that you really just need to change some habits, and that's going to change the way your body reacts first and foremost. So I would say that to anybody before they put supplements in their body, to do those types of things first, and then see where they stand and what they really need.
Mm-hmm. Wow, Teresa, thank you very much. I mean, and this is not only helping like Teresa, everybody else would be getting benefit from it too. I mean, there would be other diabetics and that out there listening. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And
so I love that you brought up crystals. So I love to implement frequency into water. That's been one of my favorite things to do, is to take, there for a while, I would make Schumann resonance water, because that is, the Schumann resonance accelerates healing. As you know, I mean, when we go and ground ourselves, we're accelerating healing in the body, and we are, alleviating inflammation and stuff like that. So I used to make, for my friends and anybody who wanted it, like Schumann water, and you could drink about 8 ounces of that. And if you had a headache or something like that, it would be gone, because you're taking it directly into the body, and that frequency is going directly to the cell by way of water. So that was one of my hobbies for a while that I really loved to do.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, I actually have shungite. We have like water filters, big water bench, big bench water filters that we tip it in so we can, have clean drinking water. And my guides told me to put, to make myself some shungite water. And I thought, what on earth's that? I've never heard of it before. And then I Googled it, and you take 1 kilo of shungite pieces and to 10 liters of water. I'm sorry, I don't know about it in your language. What is it? Yeah, so
I don't know what that translates to either.
Oh, we'll have to do if anybody lives in America and you don't have a clue what I'm talking about, you can Google, convert 1 kilo and then do it from there. So shungite actually shields you from EMF, the electromagnetic frequencies that's coming in from 5G or from everywhere. I put it in I use it for my dog's water bowl too, and I've noticed that bacteria grows in it less and less and less.
Yeah.
Especially during the hot months here, which it's coming into now here on the Gold Coast in Australia. And that's protection, because it's a nice black protective stone, so it gets rid of negativity. And I think I've had them there for 2 years now, and we've only had to take them out once or twice and wash the whole water filter, whereas before it would be every couple of months we used to have to wash the water filter because it would get that sort of green slimy stuff around the sides, and it hardly does it now with the Sugarite.
Yes.
So it's just amazing.
Yeah. I think it's supposed to do some mineralizing to the water as well. Yeah, that is great. I love that. And I think you can even drop a couple of little pieces of shungite in your house plants to help mineralize them too. Like as you water them, and the shungite's, seeping into the soil.
Yep. I actually have a little water pot. Yeah, I know. I have a little water pot. I even have crystals in my fridge with the food. I have amethyst.
That's great.
I have rose quartz, and there's another one that I can't think of. But yeah, I have them in my fridge. And I have crystals in the holder that I use to water my plants with. So I'm crystal crazy. It's just a love and a passion of mine. It always has been. Yeah. Yeah. So do you use them in your practice? Do you use them in your practice?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Right.
When I'm doing energy work, absolutely. I mean, of course, I keep them all around the house as well, but I do specifically when I'm doing energy work, when I'm doing Reiki with a client, I will use all the crystals.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fantastic.
Yes, and that's definitely one of my protocols that I very much recommend whenever a client is on a healing journey, that, you cannot just address the physical body, by itself. You've got to address the emotional body whenever you're healing.
Yep. But it's sort of like I said, that you can't just get a crystal and stick it up on your bench and expect it to work. You've got to create a relationship with it. I've been watching this Liberty horse training lately, and what they do is they do an exercise where they join with the horse. So they've got this love connection there. And that's what I now say about crystals. You've got to actually love the crystal. You've got to talk to it. You've got to be with it, because that is a living frequency. It's got a living consciousness. And so the more that you love it, the more it's going to connect with you and heal the problems that you've got. You can't just stick one in your bra or have it on your person, and once, for a week when you get it, and then you put it up somewhere and you forget about it. It's not going to work. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you've got to have that join up.
Yes, that connection from the heart. It's heart to heart.
Exactly. And that's all they emit, really, isn't it? Unless it's it needs cleaning. So that when you first get a crystal, I actually get some Palo Santo and I just run around it, or sage. I say protective prayers around it, releasing prayers for any dark energy, because the people who had it or the place it came from, they may have had dark energies, and they've programmed the crystal. So you really need to be sure that you can cleanse the crystal. Some people cleanse them in salt water, but some crystals aren't conducive, or the salt water doesn't agree with them, and it can sort of attack them. So just be careful what type of crystal. Maybe Google how to cleanse an amethyst or something, So it's like I said, some things can handle the salt water, some can't. But cleaning them, loving them, and they will do the rest. It's just a very, very inexpensive way of keeping your vibration high and helping you to heal. Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because that makes me think that also it's very important to cleanse your field. I think a lot of people are aware of the fact that we can draw in other people's frequencies when we are around people. And so, yes, we need to clean our crystals, but we also need to clean ourselves, our auras and our fields of unwanted energy and things of that nature. So I definitely would encourage everybody to do that once a week. If you need to do it every day, whatever, acknowledge maybe who you're around, what you're around, or maybe you've been in a moment, a tragic time in your family or whatever. This type of stuff will enter into your field that radiates around you, your frequency field, and it can stay in there. And so it's really important that we cleanse that on a continuous basis so that stuff is not affecting us and bringing us down too, because we can definitely feel other people's emotions and whatnot, and maybe we're having a bad day, but it really belongs to somebody else and it's not ours because we don't normally feel that way or behave that way. And so acknowledging too that other people can affect your frequency and doing that continuous cleanse is really important.
Absolutely. Yep. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Well, unless you've got something else to say, I think we might leave it there for this month.
I think we've said a mouthful today.
I think we have, haven't we? Once it started flowing, the information just went blah. So it was great.
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. And if anybody does want to reach out to, I'm sorry?
If you can stay there when we're finished, I'd love to talk to you.
Sure, absolutely.
Yep, that'll be fantastic.
Absolutely.
Everybody, please contact Ash. She is in Houston, Texas, but it's only a short internet blip away because she can do consultations via whatever means that she does. Otherwise, she'll be on again probably around the 8th of the next month. What is it? October next month. So if she would love to join us again. So if you're okay with that again.
Absolutely. Anytime.
And if you have any questions, you can email me at hello@divalee.co. hello@divalee.co. That's where and I'll put all the links to my email, or if you want to ask Ash a direct question, I'll put up her email as well below in the links. And we'll see everybody else this time next month with Ash. Thank you, Ashley, so much. That information is so invaluable, especially in this time and space where we're at.
Absolutely.
in this earthly existence of ours. So anyway, sending love to everybody, and thank you, Teresa, for your questions this week. Thank you.
Yes, Teresa, thank you.